Okay, what we have here today is Ryan Lau, the winner of Gunpla Builders World Cup Canada, and his entry is the Kshatriya Repaired. So tell us about your entry.
Okay, yeah, the entry, you know, I took around a year to build.
Yeah.
And I always had I always loved, you know, Unicorn Gundam, and one of my favorite Neon Zeon suits is the Kshatriya. So I always, all the models I saw of the Kshatriya was always in more of a static pose, right? Standing with the binders, and so I had the idea of kind of making a more dynamic pose with it.
Yes.
And so I thought it, you know, looked so cool and dynamic in the anime, so I wanted to kind of recreate kind of a dynamic position with it. But rather than just sticking with the regular Kshatriya, I wanted to make a variant of the repaired Kshatriya, which is called the Besarang, the Kshatriya Besarang. And so, yeah, so I looked at a bunch of reference photos and saw how it was done,
Yes.
and then started building the Kshatriya Besarang. And then from there, I wanted to build, with a dynamic pose, I also wanted a dynamic diorama as well too.
Yes.
So that's how I got the idea of, like, you know, an angled platform with like an explosion set in it as well too.
Which is actually really nice. I mean, for me, during our meetups,
Yeah.
I've actually seen you
Yes.
work that explosion.
That's
It's like
right, that's
just
right.
chatting with so many people
Yeah.
at the same time, just work on those with the diorama itself. It's
Yeah.
like you're doing 4 or 5 things at the same time, and you pulled it off so flawlessly.
Oh,
It's
thank
like,
you.
It's really great. It's,
Yeah, it was a big learning experience. It was really funny because, like, I really had no idea what I was doing at first, you know. In fact, even as I was building it and showing a lot of the progress photos, people were saying how it looked like, well, it first looked like a cloud, right? And then it looked like kind of shaved ice as I started painting it yellow and orange. And then once I started putting the gray and the black colors and lighting it with LED, that's when it started looking more like an explosion, right? So
it's just,
it was a work in progress for sure.
it was a work in progress, but
Yeah.
you just pulled off that.
Thank you.
That even the diorama itself,
Right,
the battle
right.
scene, even the Kshatriya.
Yeah.
You even showed us pictures. You shared it in the group and
Yes.
your Instagram page.
Yeah.
How you actually built the
Yes.
the
yes.
units, even the heat sink at the,
Right,
the front
yeah,
skirt.
yeah.
That one is actually fascinating because you used
Yeah.
those stabs for the breads.
Yeah, bread. Those little those plastic kind of bread clips, you know, that you get from the bread things. I can't take 100% credit for that because I did see another builder use something similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you know, for probably a period of, I think, like 3-4 months, I asked my wife to keep all our bread tabs just so that I could experiment cutting it up and seeing what would work and what wouldn't. And it turned out great. Like they sanded really well, they painted really well. They came with like perfect angles to them that made it look perfect, like a heat sink kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was you know, worked out really well in the end. So.
Now, for the basic Kshatriya, did
Yeah.
you actually painted the whole unit itself?
Yeah, so after doing all the modifications, so I did, you know, after all the mods took the longest, and then after that we took apart everything and painted basically everything, every component, even the frame, and everything was completely painted. And I wanted to use a more muted green than what the regular green came in, so just because I tend to like more muted color palettes for my Gundams.
So for the paint and what type of paint did you use to paint those?
Yeah, so pretty much I used, like, all my metallics. I used all clad metallics. So I think it was like their pale gold and their chrome, and all the colors I pretty much used were all Mr. Color.
Yeah.
But I did custom mix them, but mostly just to kind of bring the colors to be a more muted hue kind of thing,
Yeah.
or muted color to them, muted tone to them kind of thing.
That's
So,
really nice.
yeah.
And how long did it took you to paint each one?
For the model itself, it probably took a month, 6 weeks or so, like a month roughly. I'm very slow at the hobby.
Yeah, but you actually made it perfect. That's my opinion.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I painted components separately, so it took around a month to 6 weeks to paint, and then it took another maybe 2 weeks to paint the base and everything like that. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's really awesome.
Yeah.
My entry took about a day to paint. I'm not even done yet, and I still actually put it.
That's amazing. I'm very slow at this hobby.
No, I just the day before my flight, I just literally just spray painted the whole thing.
That's
But,
impressive.
yeah. But what made you decide to choose Kshatriya Repair as your entry? Because last year you chose the GM Sniper as your entry,
That's
and you got the third place.
Right.
But this year Kshatriya Repaired, so you get the Earth Federation, and then you get the New Zion.
Yeah, exactly.
New Museum.
Yeah.
So what made you decide this year?
You know, it's actually really interesting. Like a lot of times, like in terms of my build style, I really like to increase like the details of a kit. So usually the first thing I would look at is I would look for kits that don't have that much detail in them, you know, and kits that may be able to be improved by adding extra detail. And so the Gym Sniper 2 is an amazing MG master grade kit, you know. Awesome frame, awesome details, almost no seam lines to worry about, but except of course there was very little surface detail, you know, and so that was a kit why I chose that last year. This year, the Kshatriya has always been one of my favorite suits. You know? Like, if you look online, everyone's always asking for an MG Kshatriya to be released by Bandai, but unfortunately they haven't, so they've only done an HG version of it. And the HG version is very, very well constructed, right, as in minimal seam lines. Beautiful proportions and everything, but there's very little surface detail to it, and that being one of my favorite suits, that's why I decided to use that as, you know, as my entry for this year.
Okay, now the next question is, this is actually should have been asked at the beginning. How long have you been in this hobby?
Okay, so I've been, so you know, I was given my first kit ever. When I was like 9 years old. That was like the old kits where you have to like super glue everything. There was no fit, like, it was basically proportions were terrible, right? It was like a first grade kit kind of thing, right? And then I kind of, after that I took a break, and then it wasn't until I was in university where I saw a buddy of mine, you know, build a bunch of models that were like really beautiful, so I wanted to start into that. So in university I had another kind of, you know, interest in Gunpla, but at the time I just snap built kits, maybe did some preliminary like panel lining which looked terrible, and then after that you know, I got busy with school and then starting work and everything, and then it wasn't really until the last two and a half years or so where I started picking it back up again. But this time around I was like, you know what, I've done the snap build thing, I kind of want to go more serious into the hobby, and so so I started, you know, looking up how to, you know, airbrush and detail, and then from there just kind of you know, one thing led to another kind of thing, you know. Zach Aurelius was a huge kind of encourager, you know, for encouraging me to go into the custom side.
I heard about your connection with Zach Aurelius. Can you give us more some information? How did you get to know Zach?
Well, I just know him very little actually. We're more like online friends more than anything else. But he last year he had like a custom Zacco contest, and so you know, being a huge fan of his channel, right, I wanted to take part in it. So that was my very first time customizing any kits, and even really doing a paint scheme that was beyond what the normal paint scheme was. And so it was my first foray into the whole world of custom Gunpla. And then so he had this custom Zacco contest which I entered, and you know, surprisingly I came in first place for that, and it was such an amazing surprise, you know, such a huge honor, and then from there, you know, I was kind of looking at the whole hobby in general. I was like, wow, like this is actually, you know, like maybe I can, you know, like do more of this stuff, right? And it just so happened that year was also the first time Canada had GBWC as well too. So that kind of gave me the encouragement to actually pursue. I was like, wow, like kind of back, you know, rewind a little bit. 3 years ago, I remember looking at YouTube videos of GBWC, and I was like thinking to myself, I was like, wow, GBWC is such an amazing event. These modelers are so crazy. Their details are so amazing. It would be a dream of mine to like go there sometime. But at the time, I didn't even like. I wasn't even painting my models at that time. You know. And then so knowing that GBWC was for the first time last year, I was like, wow, this would be such an awesome opportunity. And so that's how I kind of started with my Gym Sniper 2, and then now this year the Kshatriya. So.
Yeah, so many things happened at the short period of time. It's like, for me, I get to see your work there. Not just the diorama, but the entry itself.
Right.
It's like, every time you manage to do go to the meetup, you just show a piece
little
of it.
bits of it. Yeah.
So I personally get to see your work,
and
I actually learned a lot from it as well. It's like next year I will admit it. It's like thanks to you, I'm actually pushing my skills further.
Yes, that's
like,
good.
I'm still trying to decide what kit I want to put an entry in.
Okay. Yeah.
But then it's just pushing. Actually, a couple of our members in the Edmonton Gunpla Builders is actually pushing themselves because of
Wow, they're amazing. Like we have a lot of really talented builders here.
Yeah.
And I'm so makes me so happy to see that more and more people are kind of trying to push their skill set, learning new techniques, maybe getting out of their comfort zone a little bit. I think that's so important in the hobby to do. Try out different things. We'll never know everything, right? So
now, what can you advise to new builders, people just getting into the hobby, and to the veteran builders for Gundams? What can you advise them?
I feel like for people just newly getting into the hobby, it's so important to just really enjoy what you're doing. Don't feel like you have to compare your own builds with other people. Everyone builds at their own pace. And don't feel like people who customize their Gunpla are superior to those who just snap build. Everyone has their own kind of pace at which they learn things at, or even their what they're satisfied with. Right? It's important to just build what you enjoy building and just having a great time doing it. And for those who are more veteran builders, as you said, who want to maybe push themselves a little more, don't be afraid to do so. Sometimes I know the first thing I was thinking whenever I cut into a piece, I was like, if I ruin this piece, I have to buy a whole new kit to replace it, But don't let that kind of stop you from entering the world of customizing Gunpla either, right? A couple of guys here too, they just started customizing very recently, and then they fell in love with it, right?
Yeah.
It's often not as hard as you think it is, but as with anything, it's so important to be patient with it, right, and to persevere through with it too. That's if anything I learned from this whole hobby is it takes a lot of time and patience to execute, and that's kind of the thing I respect the most out of those world-class builders. Where, you look at their beautiful builds, and then if you think about all the time and energy they put into it, it's really inspiring how much patience they have through the whole thing. So for the veteran builders, don't be afraid to kind of push yourself, and it takes a lot of time, but as long as you're enjoying it, it's worth it. So and that's the most important thing.
Thank you so much for the really great advice. I'm looking forward to the GBWC World Cup. You're going there, and as of this interview, there's one more week before you head out to Japan.
That's right.
So who are you going with? That's $1 million question.
I'm gonna go with my wife and my brother-in-law, and we're gonna go crazy Gunpla shopping. And
I'm jealous. I'm really jealous.
Gunpla shopping and ramen eating. That'll be our two things.
And those are the two things I want to do.
Sorry. I'm rubbing salt in your wound.
No, this is all. The wound is already way open. My friend is already there.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
So he just didn't get salt, but he actually got the worst ones. It's like just rubbing it in mud. He keeps posting it. Now you're going, and now we get another member going. So I'm booking my flight next year.
Good.
Doesn't matter what time of the year I'm going.
That's right. Good. Do it. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah.
Now, it's going to be very interesting this next couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to the news, and it's like congratulations for winning GBWC Canada.
Thank you so much.
And I'm hoping for the best for GBWC the World Tournament.
Yeah, thank you. I just feel so honored to be able to represent Canada to be among all the talented builders and learn from them. It's it's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you for this exclusive interview.
oh, hey, no problem.
I'll see
yeah.
you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye. That was awesome.